the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. It's official. Rock stars think Israel's a great place to party, how this little girl lifts these great big weights, talking Bob Dylan, and more of the Jewish news that's changing your world right now in this episode of the Week in Review. Hello and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. It's a cultural coup for Israel, coming after years in which many popular performing artists have refused to play in the Jewish state. Lollapalooza is coming to Israel. The annual music festival attracts more than 50,000 attendees in Chicago every year and has launched outposts in Chile and Brazil. Next year will be the first time it goes across an ocean, and Tel Aviv will be its host. The festival's creator is musician Perry Farrell, known more popularly for his leadership in the bands Jane's Addiction and Porno for Pyros. Farrell has been known in the Jewish community for sporadically appearing at and even running Jewish events and parties. He made the announcement in a video shot by the magazine Time Out Chicago.
Lollapalooza is coming to Tel Aviv, Israel. We're going to be there next year, probably 2 weeks after Lollapalooza Chicago. We'll be in Tel Aviv.
Farrell, who said he's a frequent visitor to Tel Aviv, described in a promotional video some of the unique aspects of Tel Aviv that make it a worthy destination.
You've got all the hotels right on the beach, and let me tell you, it's sexy. There's no curfew. So, you talk about an after party. We can go into Yurcon Park, and then when that party lets out, we're right on to the next one, and they love to dance. And they have their parties right on the beach. You could be in the water, rocking out.
Of course, Tel Aviv is a very different place from Jerusalem, and in that latter city, there's yet another story this week of a woman being harassed on a local bus line. The woman in question is a 19-year-old Israeli soldier who was verbally harassed after boarding a bus populated mostly by Ultra-Orthodox men, according to a report in the Times of Israel. The soldier was out of uniform and after boarding the bus was criticized for her clothing and repeatedly told to go to the back of the bus, driving her to tears. Eventually, after the bus driver did not intervene, she disembarked from the bus prior to reaching her destination. The Egged Bus Company told the Times of Israel that the company has spoken with the soldier and her mother, who was traveling with her, and that the incident is being investigated. But if women are still having a hard time riding on buses in parts of Israel, there might be a new opening for them to at least be pictured on them. For several years, women's faces have been excluded from all ads placed on Egged buses in Jerusalem after a blanket policy was imposed to avoid vandalism from the Ultra-Orthodox by the ad agency with exclusive rights to the bus advertising, Canaan Media. After facing some public and legal pressure to change the policy, the first advertising to feature women's faces on Jerusalem buses in a long time is set to go up. The ads are for a nonprofit organization, Yerushalmim, that advocates for the rights of women in Jerusalem. Yerushalmim had sued the advertising agency 8 months ago over the policy, and after the government submitted a brief supporting Yerushalmim in June, the ad agency began a reconsideration of its policy. It might be said that Jewish women in Israel are bearing a heavy load these days, but there's actually one Jewish 10-year-old girl who's lifting more weight than anybody, and I do mean that entirely literally. One young girl is setting records previously held by those more than twice as old as she is, as Meredith Gansman reports.
At the London Olympics, some of the most powerful men and women in the world competed for medals in weightlifting. Around the globe, scores of young people train hoping to one day join their ranks.
And in this New Jersey home lives one of the strongest.
And she's 10.
I like being strong.
Naomi Kutin, who is also an Orthodox Jew, is the strongest girl in the world. At 4'9" and entering 6th grade, Kutin holds the world record for powerlifting in her weight class and can lift 215 pounds, more than twice that of her own 99 pounds. Naomi's father and coach, Ed Kutin, introduced her to the sport 2 years ago after seeing her performance in karate class.
She demonstrated some good strength attributes, being very fast, do push-ups well. She actually watched me lift for a number of years because I do a lot of working out in the basement, and I didn't really realize she was interested. I thought she was just wanted to watch her Abba lift, but she really wanted to give it a try, and she did very well with it.
Powerlifting runs in the family. Ed also holds several titles in deadlifting, and as he passes the torch, or rather lays the weight, for the next generation of Kutin lifters, he and Naomi focus on more than just strength.
I want her to get the form right for anyone who lifts. a lot of strength is just a component. There's also the ability to focus, the ability to psych yourself up, as we might say, in order to actually lift the heavy weights.
And as the sign says, it's all about being fearless.
It really means like, if you think that you can't do it, then you can't do it. So just get all the fear that you can't do it out of your head.
However, just getting to the competitions can be a challenge for Naomi. Most of the contests for women and children are held on Saturdays, and since the Kooten family observes Shabbat, Naomi cannot participate in those competitions.
So we've asked special permission and usually get it, which means that she'll compete with the heavy men.
It just means that I can't compete with the other kids, which can be annoying sometimes, but usually it's no big deal. I just get used to it.
For more from this pint-sized powerhouse, tune into the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Meredith. One iconic Jewish figure who's credited with inspiring many to greater inner strength is Bob Dylan. The famous singer-songwriter is someone we can look to for lessons in our own lives, according to a new book by Dow Jones media columnist John Friedman. Friedman sat down with me to discuss his book, Forget About Today, Bob Dylan's Genius for Reinvention, Shunning the Naysayers, and Creating a Personal Revolution. Here are some of the highlights of that interview. This book is not so much about Bob Dylan's music. It's really about his life and a guide to his life.
It's really about his legacy. I mean, think of Bob Dylan, you think of Blowing in the Wind, like Rolling Stone, Hurricane, all the great songs he's written and sang. And sure, he's had a fantastic career, but you don't think about Dylan as Mr. Longevity, Mr. Careerist. I examine Dylan from a different angle. I see Dylan as someone who's got a fantastic story to tell about how to succeed in life in terms of longevity, reinvention, career goals, and sticking to them.
But one of the things that's not really addressed is whether he's succeeded morally, whether he's succeeded, we speak of some of the spiritual episodes,
sure,
but whether he's succeeded in something other than finding a way to constantly keep the tickets selling and the CDs selling. And so
it's a fair point. I mean, you can point to his personal life and say he did this wrong, or this was not good, or this was a mess. And sure, you can make a case for that too. But I think everyone's life can be like that. Maybe not to such an extreme. We aren't so famous as Bob Dylan, but we all have skeletons in our closets. Everyone does. Everyone has mistakes. You want to do over in life sometimes. But in Dylan's case, I think he does act morally. Perhaps there are people who disagree. People who know him better than I do might say that's not really true. But I think on balance, he comes out ahead.
Jewish spirituality, he did have some spiritual episodes with Hasidism and other things.
Yeah. In '83, I think one of his sons was bar mitzvahed in Israel. And he always has, like I said, always has embraced this part of his life. I mean, he always has recognized his Judaism. When he changed the name of Zimmerman to Dylan, he called his parents very respectfully. He didn't say in a smarmy way, I'm changing my name. He made sure their parents were okay with it, and they were okay with it because they wanted to support him in his career. And I think you find that he has a very strong, I shouldn't speak for him, but I think he's got a very strong core of Judaism going through him, and I think he feels very proud of it.
With what you know about Bob Dylan's biography, in what ways was he reinventing Jewish ideas, in the 80s primarily?
Well, in the 70s, I mean, take the album Desire. He had the violin strain, the gypsy strain through it. I think he felt very strongly about that music, and music does sound to me very much like Jewish music. He had the song Oh Sister. These songs are very much
kind of klezmer-ish.
Yes, I think so, and I think Dylan always tries to find inspiration in everything he does. And when I heard Desire for the first time, I thought, wow, this is really an interesting Jewish-sounding kind of record. And maybe it was my point of view, but Joey and Oh Sister and these very strong, slow ballads struck me being that way. And I think he has always felt an affiliation with Judaism. I think he is observant to a large. You see his tour list. He doesn't play on the high holidays, probably by design. You can always find that to be true, and I think that tells you a lot right there.
You can see the full interview with John Friedman in the weekly news category on the Jewish Channel on Demand on cable. That's all for this week. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable. Time Warner Cable Channel 528, IO Optimum Channel 291, RCN Channel 268, Bright House Channel 330, Verizon Fios Channel 900, Cox Channel 1, Frontier Communications, and now on Comcast Cable in the on-demand menu under Premium Channels. For more information, visit tjctv.com.